Hey everyone, Dave K here, and today I want to give you a product review for my Canon M50, which I'm using right here to video with and which I vlog with every single day. Let's do it. Getting started with our Canon M50 product review. I've really been enjoying this camera. I use this camera every day in park vlogging. I use this camera at home. I find it to be a lot better even than the webcam that I have here on my computer. And there's one particular reason for that, and one strength that I think this camera really has, and that's the autofocus. The ability of this camera to make sure it maintains focus on my face or on the subject matter in which I'm trying to video is fantastic. I feel like it's better than anything else that I've used. I feel like maybe Mike's camera has a little bit better autofocus than mine, but other than that, I feel like this autofocus can't be beat. For me, that's one of the biggest perks and the biggest assets of this camera. Overall, I'd give this camera maybe an 8 or a 9. I feel like it's almost perfect. Again, that autofocus could probably be a little bit better. One other thing I'd like to improve on this camera is I feel like it's a little bit large. You know, it can be quite deep, takes up a lot of space, and it doesn't quite zoom out as wide as I'd like it to. So for example, if I'm trying to video this vlog, I need to make sure that my camera is far enough from my face so that I can take this video without seeing too much of my face or not enough of the background. The widest zoom, the 15 millimeters if you will, the most wide zoom or the closest zoom, I'm not really sure what you'd call it, but the one that allows me to see the most in the background is one that I think could be a little bit better on this camera. Otherwise, I absolutely love it. Now let me go into the things that I really do love about this camera. One of the reasons I upgraded from my cell phone to this camera is the microphone. I wanted the ability to attach a microphone that I could use so I could hear myself very clearly while I was videoing. I had a hard time getting the audio that I needed on my phone, and so upgrading to this camera allowed me to get a microphone that can sit right on top of my camera on that hot shoe, that seat, if you will, where a microphone sits, and it allows the camera to hear me perfectly. At first, I didn't love the sound of this microphone. I was on Tomorrowland Speedway, and I could hear a lot of the cars racing in the background as I was videoing a vlog or a chat with Mike. But then I realized over time, really, that background audio was quite loud, and generally, the microphone does a really good job of making sure that it's picking up my audio the loudest when compared to everything else making noise in the background. Another reason I really love this camera and upgraded to this camera from my phone is the front-facing camera on my phone. When I try to use the front-facing camera on my phone, I see that the video quality is not great. A lot of the time, I'm trying to take that video of myself chatting or me chatting with Mike or just general videos of myself in the parks. I like to vlog that style, right, where my face is the main focal point of the camera, if you will. And I feel like the front-facing camera on the cell phone doesn't quite do justice to the quality that I'd like to have of my video. Using this camera, I am able to flip the screen around. I can turn the screen outwards, I flip it sideways or up and down so I can see exactly what I want to see over here on myself. In my reflection, what I'm able to see is myself talking to the camera. That allows me to make sure that I'm staying within frame. So I know I can go about this high or I can go about this low on the camera without having to worry about being in the scope of the lens. Again, here are sort of my left and right windows, so you know I can see exactly what you're seeing just by sort of looking over to the side here as opposed to looking at the camera. Now it also helps that the screen flips up and down. So right now the camera has the screen upside down actually because the microphone port kind of blocks where that screen would show me how long I've been recording. And I like to see that the record button is indeed on. I like to see how much battery life I have left. I like to see how long I've been videoing for. And so being able to flip that screen a little bit upside down, still see myself perfectly clearly, although it is upside down, and to be able to see that I'm recording, that I have enough battery left, that I'm still going, and that the video time has elapsed to a certain point are really big assets of this camera as well. I can see myself sticking with this camera for a really long time. I don't see a need for me to urgently upgrade. The only other feature that I was looking for and that I'm considering is the ability to video in the water. I do want a camera that allows me to video in the water quite well and allows me to pick up audio in the water as well. I've been using Mike's old GoPro Hero 5 and that's been great for me to get the water audio that I need. So I don't see myself getting another camera for too many other reasons. I also feel like this camera does a fantastic job of taking photos. I love taking photos on this camera. One challenge I do run into from time to time is when I try to click that button to take photos on the top, if it's too dark outside, the photo won't take. So sometimes I have to physically take my finger and tap the screen, the touch screen, to make sure that it's focusing on the right level of darkness or right level of light so it will snap that picture. A lot of the time, the camera won't know exactly where to focus in the darker settings and therefore will think that it can't take a picture. Being able to remind it to focus on my face or being able to show it exactly what it should be looking at allows me to get the camera to take that picture without having to worry too much about being able to take those low light pictures. My camera does a great job at night and taking those darker shots. It has a 3.5 aperture, I believe is what it's called, the level of darkness that I can take in photos. Generally, that sounds pretty good, but it sounds like there's a lot better as well. However, when I've compared it to other cameras like that G7X Mark III that Mike was testing for a while, I found that my dark footage was fantastic. I videoed the entire ride for the Navi River journey, and I feel like that footage came out quite well. I'm able to see almost everything. Now, I have had challenges. For example, when I was on Space Mountain during the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see my face, I couldn't see any of my reactions on the camera, but I can understand that it's really, really difficult to get that completely black light setting and be able to pick that up with this camera. So I think the camera does a really good job in darker settings and a lot better than you'd expect for this camera with that 3.5 low-level light setting. Another thing I want to touch on with this camera is the zoom. I feel that the lens that came with my camera in the kit was really good for what I needed initially. It's a 15 to 45 millimeter zoom, which means I can video about this far out so you can see my face very clearly, and I can video quite far in so I could zoom into some fireworks and that sort of thing just to give you a better shot of everything that's going on. I really like this ability to zoom, but I'm also wondering if at some point I may want to get a lens that zooms further out as well as zooms further in so I can get a better shot of fireworks, but also I can get a better shot of myself and Mike and maybe the entire family at a table eating food or that sort of thing. In terms of the battery life on my camera, I feel the camera does a pretty good job of maintaining battery throughout the day. I find myself maybe switching out one battery over the course of the day. I like to carry around a total of 3 batteries, 1 in the camera and 2 in my pocket, just to make sure that I have the battery that I need to last the entire day. I think I could probably record for maybe an hour or an hour and a half without having to worry about switching batteries in this camera. I'm not sure if that's the best, but I think it's pretty good for what I need, and I like to be able to carry around those 2 extra batteries again, just in case I feel the need to video extra footage throughout the day. I feel like the price point of this camera is pretty good as well. I know it's not cheap at coming in around $700, $800 depending upon where you get it from, but I feel like this camera is a pretty good deal compared to some of the other camera options out there. I've seen cameras go for over $1,000, and being able to get this camera at the price that I can get it at, I feel like is a pretty good deal and a great way to get started in videoing and in vlogging without having to worry too much about spending too much money on a super high quality or super nice camera. Another advantage to this camera is it can be fairly quiet when it takes pictures. As I'm taking pictures or videoing throughout the day, the camera is generally quite quiet and doesn't disturb other guests around me or anyone else in my party. I find that when I'm videoing, I'm also able to close that flip screen and just look through the eye lens, which allows me to video everything that I'm looking at without shining a light outside behind me, again, at those guests next to me or anyone else who may be enjoying that same experience. Being able to enjoy and utilize this camera in more of a silent sort of stealth mode really adds to the functionality of the camera. I'm glad to have that functionality and that eye port there as well. Sometimes when trying to take pictures at night or in darker settings, I find that an orange light will come off of the top of my camera to try to focus in those darker settings. Sometimes this can be a problem or a challenge when I'm trying to video in rides that aren't supposed to have any flash. Now it's not quite a flash, but I still feel like that red light can be irritating and potentially a problem if I'm in the wrong ride or at the wrong time. I'm not sure if I'm able to turn this setting off. This may be an option, but I still need to look into it. But it is something that I run into from time to time. I believe the sensor that creates that orange light is in the upper left-hand corner of the camera. So maybe I could potentially try just blocking that light and seeing what happens, but I'm not sure I'd still be able to take a picture if I block that light. In terms of the microphone that I have attached to my camera, I have a Movo microphone. It's just something that I found on Amazon that plugged into my camera appropriately. You should be able to look up microphones that are adaptable to your particular camera and find some that plug in and work for you. Even on your phone, you should be able to find some microphones that work, but it can be challenging to get a high quality one that also plugs into your phone or is easy to use. If it doesn't attach to your phone in some way, you may find it more challenging to be able to utilize that microphone while holding it sort of waving in the air there. In terms of size and convenience, the camera overall is quite useful. I feel like the neck strap that I have for my camera allows me to carry the camera around and not have to worry about keeping it in my hand all the time. That being said, the size of the camera itself is also quite convenient to hold in one's hand. It's great to take pictures, and I don't worry about too much of the camera hanging out of my hand and being loose when I'm trying to video or take pictures. I do find that with the neck strap that I have, sometimes it can be uncomfortable to have the camera sit on my stomach throughout the day, and so I'll hang the camera off my shoulder. However, when I hang the camera off my shoulder, I worry about potentially the camera getting hit by someone else's bag or something along those lines. So I need to be sure to be careful with that camera as I'm using it. For the stand that I utilize to make sure that the camera can see me and I don't have to hold it up all the time, I use Mike's old Manfrotto stand. It's a small tripod stand, sort of a handheld thing that's maybe as tall as my hand, that sort of extends into 3 legs and allows me to video myself clearly without having to worry again about that balance or it staying level. Overall, I've really enjoyed my experience with this camera. What have you thought of our footage lately? Have you seen a big difference in our videos, like the videos I shot at Disneyland a month ago or 2 months ago, and the videos I've been shooting now? What else do you think you'd like to hear more about in reference to this camera? Or what else do you think would add to the videoing experience? Thanks so much for being a part of the fun with me. If you've not already, for more fun, family-friendly adventures, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay informed of all the fun adventures I bring to you. Until next time, play on.